All right, in this mini lesson, we're going to be looking at multiplying and simplifying expressions with polynomials, and we're also going to look at factoring quadratic expressions, okay? Remember, we're using expression when we don't have an equal symbol. When we have an equal symbol, that's when we become an equation, okay? So when I look at this first one, most of us in Algebra 2 and in Algebra 1, we're using the box method, and that's what we'll go with here when we're multiplying polynomials. Okay, so we're going to take our first expression, our first polynomial, x minus 6, and I'm going to write it x minus 6 in a column. And then the second expression, 2x plus 7, and write it as column headers, 2x plus 7. Okay, and then we're going to make our box. Then we're going to multiply our rows with our columns. So I'm going to do x, which is really like a 1x, right? We don't have to write it, but it's really there. 1x times 2x, 1x times 2x, so the 1 times the 2 is 2, and the x times the x is x squared. Then I have 1x times 7, so the 1 times the 7 is 7, and the x, there's no x there, so it's just times x. Okay, then I'm going to go to my second row. Negative 6 times 2x. So negative 6 times 2 is a negative 12. There's no x here. There is one here, so it stays there. Negative 6 times a positive 7 is a negative 42. Okay, so then inside our boxes we combine all of our like terms. I just have this 2x squared, that's the only thing with a square on it, so that's the only thing I write there, 2x squared. And then here on this diagonal, I have a negative 12x, and I have a positive 7x, so negative 12 and a positive 7 is going to be a negative 5x. And then I just have this constant number, constant just means there's no variable with it, of negative 42. So here is my simplified expression. Okay, let's look at another one. All right, so when I look at the next one, 4x plus 5 equals 2x minus 3. So my first binomial is 4x plus 5. And my second polynomial or binomial is 2x plus 3. Notice I keep the sign with the number that it's right in front of. Okay, so now I'm going to make my box. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and multiply. So 4x times 2x. 4 times 2 is 8. X times x is x squared. 4x times 3. 4 times 4 times 3 is 12, and then I still have the x. And then we'll come to the next row. 5 times 2x. A positive 5 times 2x is a positive 10x. And then a positive 5 times a positive 3 is a positive 15. So now we will combine our like terms. So the only one that has an x squared is this one here, so that's going to be 8x squared. Okay, and then I didn't write it when it was positive, but sometimes it's easier because you need to remember that you're adding them together. When I put these plain x's together, a positive 10x plus 12x is a positive 22x. And then I have this positive 15. I didn't put a plus sign, but it really is there, and you need to remember that it's there so you don't just put a 15 without the plus sign. So 8x squared plus 22x equals 15. All right, so now we're going to go down to the next section. We're going to do factoring quadratic equations, and we're going to use the x method to factor our quadratic equation. So remember, when you're doing your quadratic equation, we make our x, and then we're going to, remember, I've got our a value, our b value, and our c value. And in this case, my a value, even though I don't see it there, is 1. In the top of my x, I'm always going to do a times c. So in this case, 1 times 12, which is 12. Okay? In the bottom, I'm always going to put my b value, which in this case, my b value is 8. Okay? I'm looking for things that multiply to 12 and add to 8. So I'm going to come over here and remind myself that I'm looking to multiply to 12. So my multipliers of 12 are going to be 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and that's it. And so then I want to get a positive 8 when I put them together. So if I do a positive 2 plus 6, that's going to give me my 8. So my 2 and my 6 will multiply to 12, and they will add to 8. So then what we do on the sides over here is underneath our fraction, we put the value of a, which in this one is pretty simple because a is just 1. So I'm going to put a 1 there, and I'm going to put a 1 there. Okay? And then on the top, we put the two numbers that we found, my 2 and my 6. So my positive 2 and my positive 6. If those can reduce, we go ahead and reduce them. Really, it's just 2 over 1 and 2 and 6 over 1. We're going to go ahead and leave them as fractions because the number on the bottom is what's going to go in front of the x. So I'm going to have 1x. And then look at the top, I have a positive 2. So x plus 2. And then for the second fraction, I have 1 on the bottom, so 1x. And a 6 on the top, so positive 6. So here is my factored expression. Okay, let's look at the next one. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to make our x method. Okay, and then I'm going to have a times c on the top. So a times c, my a is 3, and my c is 8, so that's 24. And then on the bottom, I'm going to have my b. Okay, so my 3 times my 8 gave me that 24, and then the b is just from the middle. So now I want my multiples of 24. So 24, that's 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and that's it. I want to multiply or add to make a positive 14. So that's going to be my plus 2 and my plus 12 will give me a positive 14. Remember, sometimes you have minus signs in here, right? So you want to think about that. Sometimes you end up having to subtract here. If this has to be a positive number, but this has to be negative, then both of these have to be negative. So remember to be careful of your signs, right? So 2 plus 12, let me zoom in a little bit. 2 plus 12 does give me my 14 that I need. So these are going to be the two numbers that I'm going to use. 2 times 24 gives me my, or 2 times 12 gives me my positive 24, and 2 plus 12 gives me my positive 14. Okay? So then when I come back to my x, remember the a is going to go underneath the fraction. So my a is 3. And then the number that's going to go on top are my 2 and my 12. My first fraction cannot reduce, so I leave it exactly as it is, 2 over 3. My second fraction does reduce because 12 is divisible by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. But we want to think of it as a fraction, so to keep it as a fraction, I'm going to say that's 4 over 1. Okay? So now when I make my first binomial, I'm going to have the bottom number is 3, so it's going to be 3x, and my top number is a positive 2, so plus 2. If one of these had been negative, then it would be minus that number, right? Over here, I have a 4 over 1, so the number on the bottom is 1, so I'm going to have 1x, and then the number on top is a positive 4. So here's my factored quadratic expression. Okay, so hopefully that helps you with multiplying and with factoring of polynomials.